They will tell you a city this size cannot fall in a single day. King's Landing, hundreds of thousands of souls, great walls, the Iron Throne itself at its heart. And yet, in the year 130 after the conquest, it fell in less than one. Not to fire, not to a siege that starved its people. It fell because the men paid to guard its gates remembered an old loyalty and quietly decided to open them. And at the end of that day, a queen who had been told since girlhood that the throne was hers finally climbed the steps to sit it. There is blood on those steps, bloody footprints, pressed into the iron. If you came to this episode as a book reader, you know that image. The throne drawing the blood of the ruler who dares to sit it. But watch closely, because the show did not give you the moment from the page. The blood on those steps is not hers. And what the show put there instead tells you exactly where this story is going. Here is what tonight's triumph does not yet know. She has just won the most powerful seat in the world in a single morning, and she will lose it in half a year without ever losing a battle for the city. The chair she bleeds on is the one the old stories say judges the rulers who dare to sit it. Maegor the Cruel was found dead upon it, slumped in his own blood, the cause a mystery to this very day. A king who came later cut himself on it, so often the court called him King Scab. In the book, the throne cuts Rhaenyra too, the instant she takes her seat, through her armor. And a partisan Septon writes that the throne had spurned her, that her days upon it would be few. The show did not film that cut. It gave her something else. And tonight, we are going to show you what is true, what is propaganda, and everything House of the Dragon changed. Welcome to Westeros Within, where we journey into forgotten ages, hidden legends, and ancient mysteries. But tonight, as we did last week, we turn to the screen. This is the book reader's breakdown of House of the Dragon, Season 3, Episode 2. Queen's Landing, written by Sara Hess, directed by Clare Kilner. An hour that took the single biggest event of the entire Dance of the Dragons, the fall of the capital, and dropped it on us in week 2. We are going A to Z, every scene, the true history underneath it, from George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, every change the show made and why it matters, the Easter eggs, the mysteries it plants, and our honest verdict. Full spoilers start now. We open in the cold light after the Battle of the Gullet. Last week ended with Prince Jacaerys sinking beneath the waves. This week opens on the bill for that victory. Out over the water, the 3 new dragon riders the war has just made, the dragon seeds, finish the work. A pale rider on the silver-white she-dragon Silverwing, a giant on the great bronze beast Vermithor, and a young man on the lean gray Sea Smoke, burning the last of the Sea Lord's ships down to the waterline. The Triarchy fleet is broken. The Blacks have won, and the win tastes like ash. Baela comes home to Dragonstone carrying her cousin's body. "It is won," she says, and there is no triumph in it. For book readers, this is faithful to the spirit of the page, though the page is even crueler about the cost. In Fire and Blood, the Gullet is fought on the 5th day of the first moon of 130 after the conquest, and it is a catastrophe dressed as a victory. The Sea Lords of the Triarchy were no strangers to dragons. They had fought them in the war for the Stepstones, and they sold their lives to drag a prince out of the sky. Inside the castle, Rhaenyra is brought to her dead firstborn, and Emma Darcy plays the whole arc of grief in one scene. Disbelief, denial, fury, collapse. She strikes the body. She clings to it. And then she turns on the men around her, the council that let her son fly into that battle. Everyone here has betrayed your queen. A knight offers his own life in apology. She has no use for it. This is the engine of everything that follows, and here the show and the book agree completely. Listen to how Fire and Blood puts it. Broken after the loss of one son, Rhaenyra seemed to find new strength after the loss of a second. Jace's death, the book says, hardened her, burning away her fears, leaving only her anger and hatred. Remember that line. Because the show is about to give Rhaenyra a different reason to march on King's Landing. And the difference between those two reasons is one of the biggest book versus show questions of the night. Down on the beaches, a quieter scene, and one of the best of the episode. Alan of Hull walks the wreckage. His brother Adam, from Dragonback, spots an old man half drowned in the shallows. And they pull Corlys Velaryon, the sea snake, alive from the sea. Gutted by what victory has cost him, Corlys does a thing he has refused to do for decades. He claims his two baseborn boys and gives them his name. The line the show hands him is taken almost word for word from the book. If this be victory, I pray I never win another. And then, to his sons, I have nothing left to give you but my name. Alan's answer is the heart of it, that a name like Velaryon is worth more than a mountain of gold. Here the show is being kinder and tidier than history. In Fire and Blood, Adam of Hull and his brother are the sons of Marilda of Hull, publicly called bastards of Sir Laenor Velaryon, though the whispers then and now say their true father was Corlys himself. Adam is the honorable one. At the outbreak of the war, he is exactly 15 years old, and he is the dragon seed who will spend his short life trying to prove that baseborn blood can be true. Rhaenyra legitimizes him as Adam Velaryon, heir to Driftmark. Hold on to him. Before this story is over, Adam of Hull will be the most quietly heartbreaking figure in the entire dance, and his tomb will carry a single word that the rest of his queen's reign does not deserve. So Act 1 leaves the Blacks where the book leaves them, holding the field and burying the prince who won it for them. A victory that feels like a funeral. To the Vale, and to the single biggest change of the night for book readers. Rhaena Targaryen, Daemon's daughter, flies to the Eyrie on the back of the wild dragon Sheepstealer and begs Lady Jane Arryn for sanctuary. She admits she has done a terrible thing. Jane refuses her cold. The Vale is lost, she says. She will not tie herself to a girl who now rides one of the largest dragons in the realm. I do not wish to see you again. Now, here is the truth from the page, and it is a big one. In Fire and Blood, Rhaena Targaryen does not have Sheepstealer. Rhaena does not have a dragon at all. Her hatchling died within hours of breaking its shell, and she spends almost the entire war grieving, dragonless, while her twin sister Baela flies to battle. Sheepstealer belongs to someone the show has erased entirely, a low-born girl named Nettles. Brown-skinned, black-haired, around 16, with no proven drop of Valyrian blood. And she tames the ugliest, most ill-tempered wild dragon in the world by bringing it a freshly killed sheep every single morning until it lets her ride. That taming, sheep and all, is the exact scene the show has now handed to a true-born Targaryen princess. And the show didn't just move the dragon. It inverted Jane Arryn. In the book, the Maiden of the Vale is one of Rhaenyra's most principled supporters, and when Rhaena comes to her, not on a war dragon, but escorting a young prince and carrying 3 precious dragon eggs, Jane welcomes her and makes her a ward of the Eyrie. She shelters her for the rest of the war. One of those 3 eggs will eventually hatch high in the mountains into a pale dragon Rhaenyra names Morning. But that is years away, and far too small to ride in this war. So the show took a dragonless girl who was sheltered, and a witch-haired tamer who was hunted, and fused them into one. We will come back to why that fusion costs the story so much. For now, just hold the names apart. Rhaenyra and Nettles, the Riverlands. Demon's host, the winter wolves out of the north, hard men in furs led by Roddy the Ruin, are celebrating a victory. The recent slaughter that broke a Lannister army in the river country. And notice what the show waves past in a single shot of a head on a pole. That recent slaughter is the battle by the lakeshore, the one the chronicles call the fish feed, the single bloodiest land battle of the entire dance, tens of thousands dead in the mud beside the God's Eye. The show reduces the deadliest day of the whole war to a trophy on a spear. Into the camp comes an aged knight bearing wine and bad news. Sir Simon Strong, the Castellan of Harrenhal, tells Demon that Jace is dead, and that the Queen demands he come home at once. And then, Demon meets the woman who has been quietly running his war in the Riverlands, Alice Rivers. She claims she delivered him an army, some 40,000 men. And she names her price, Harrenhal itself. Demon laughs in her face, an old dragon prince dismissing an unknown witch, and promises only to put it to the Queen. "I ask for food, and you offer me rubies," she tells him. "Go home, but do not come back here." And as he leaves, a warning thrown after him, "Remember what I told you." This is where the show has been building its own version of Alice Rivers, a seer, a manipulator, the secret hand behind the Riverlands. So let us tell you who she actually is in Fire and Blood, because it is stranger than the show. Alice Rivers is a bastard of House Strong, born of Lord Lionel Strong, which makes her kin to Harwin Breakbones and to Larys the Clubfoot. She is a wet nurse at Harrenhal, a woman whose own children were all stillborn. The chroniclers cannot agree on what she is. Septon Eustace calls her a woods witch. Grand Maester Munken, more cautiously, a serving woman with a knack for potions. But they agree on the unsettling part, that she could see things that had not yet happened. And every serious account agrees she was at least 40 years old, a woman who simply looked far younger than her years. The young, seductive peer the show gives Emond is a change. The book's Alice is older, eerier, and harder to explain. So Act 2 hands us the war's quietest, deepest distortion, a princess wearing a low-born girl's destiny, and introduces the witch who is about to change the fate of a one-eyed prince. On the road, the deposed king and his spy master make their move. Aegon II and Larys, the Clubfoot, prisoners being carted off toward Dragonstone, seize their chance when fighting breaks out around the column. Most of their escort is killed, and the two of them vanish into the woods. The chemistry is pure gallows comedy. A broken king and the crippled schemer keeping him alive. Aegon wants to make for Rook's Rest, where Criston Cole's garrison sits, and his wounded dragon Sunfire is hidden. Larys argues for caution. Hold on to this image of the Clubfoot on the run, because the book stages his escape very differently and far more cleverly, and we will show you how before the night is out. At Dragonstone, Demon returns to find the board has shifted under him. He learns that 2 of the new dragon seeds, the giant and the pale-haired man, abandoned their post in the Riverlands after only 2 days, muttering that a witch had warned them away. He spars with Mysaria, the White Worm, his one-time mistress, now risen high in Rhaenyra's trust. "I have the Queen's trust," she tells him, which you have yet to earn, and he learns the thing that will decide everything. Vhagar, the greatest dragon alive, has left King's Landing and is flying for the Riverlands. The capital is being stripped of its last great weapon. Daemon sees the opening and privately resolves to take it. And then comes the scene the whole episode is built around, and the one book readers need to handle with the most care. Rhaenyra, hollow with grief, says her son died for nothing, that the crown is meaningless without heirs to leave it to. Daemon refuses to let the boys have died in vain. And then he tells her what he says he saw in a vision at Harrenhal, a song of ice and fire, a darkness gathering in the far north, and a woman, generations from now, standing in a desert with dragons at her breast. He is describing, of course, the future Daenerys Targaryen, and it is enough to steady Rhaenyra and turn her toward King's Landing. So let us be precise, because this is the kind of thing this channel exists for. That prophecy, the song of ice and fire, the dragon dream of a girl to come, is not in fire and blood. It is not the book's reason for anything. Search the dance of the dragons in Martin's history, and you will not find a song of ice and fire. You will not find Aegon's dream spelled out, and you will certainly not find Daenerys. The book gives Aegon the Conqueror only a single vague line, that he had a dragon dream, that played some part in his decision to conquer the Seven Kingdoms. No White Walkers, no Long Night, no named prophecy. The detailed dream you have been watching since the very first season is the show's own invention, an elaboration George R.R. Martin reportedly blessed, but never actually published. The imagery of a girl with 3 dragons belongs to a different prophecy entirely, 3 centuries later, in the age of Daenerys. And that is where the show plants a blade. It is daring you to feel the silver-haired girl in that desert vision. The one with dragons at her breast is the same queen who, 300 years from now, will fly her last dragon over this very city and burn it to the ground. Rhaenyra is being sent to take King's Landing by a dream that points, in the end, straight at the woman who will one day destroy it. So when the show tells you Rhaenyra marches because of a prophecy, understand what changed. In the book, she marches because they killed her sons, and there is nothing left in her but rage. The show traded her grief for destiny. Whether that is a richer story or a thinner one is exactly the kind of question we will leave with you tonight. So Act 3 sets the trap. Aemond and the Great Dragon are 100 leagues from home. The capital is naked, and the Queen has finally decided to take it. Harrenhal. Aemond, steered here, the show tells us, by his own mother, arrives on Vhagar and brings down fire on the garrison, then walks in on foot to finish it. Inside, he finds Sir Simon Strong dining calmly, refusing to lift a sword against him. "Surely there is some other way you might find satisfaction," the old man says. There is not. Aemond learns Daemon is already gone, and in his fury, he kills Simon, and the Strongs with him. And as he does, one of the young Strong kin drives a blade into him. The deadliest swordsman in the realm staggers, bleeding, and crawls toward the one person who does not move to help him. Alice Rivers, who watches in silence. Almost none of this is in the book, and the way the show has compressed it is worth slowing down for. In Fire and Blood, Harrenhal changes hands 3 separate times, across the better part of a year, and not one of those times looks like what you just watched. First, Daemon takes Harrenhal, and he takes it without a drop of blood. The aged Sir Simon Strong surrenders the castle the moment he sees Caraxes in the sky, remembering what the first dragon did to Black Harren in that very hall. No fire. No fight. Second, Daemon deliberately abandons the castle, leaving it empty as bait, and flies off to take King's Landing. Third, Aemond marches his host to Harrenhal and finds it deserted. The book says it plainly. On the 19th day of their march, they reached Harrenhal, only to find it abandoned. Aemon celebrates a great victory over an enemy who had already left. So the burning of Harrenhal, the slaughter in the hall, Aemond being stabbed, Aemond crawling wounded to Alice. All of it is invented for the show. And the real fate of how strong is darker and colder than a sword in the dark. In the book, it comes later, after Aemond learns that King's Landing has fallen while he chased a shadow. Enraged, he turns on the man who yielded the castle to his uncle. He forces old Simon Strong into a mockery of a trial by combat, kills him, and feeds his remains to Vhagar. And then he puts every male of House Strong to death, down to the last small grandson, until, the chronicle says, the heap of heads stood 3 feet tall. He spares exactly one person, the wet nurse, Alice Rivers, whom he takes to his bed. The show gave you a hot-blooded massacre in a burning castle. The book gives you something far more chilling, a cold, deliberate extermination of an entire house, carried out by a man who has finally stopped pretending to have any honor at all. So Act 4 hands the Greens a hollow triumph, an empty castle, a bleeding prince, and a witch who has been waiting for him all along. And now, the title, King's Landing. The show's version of how the city falls runs through Otto Hightower. In secret, she has arranged the surrender. She meets the commander of the Gold Cloaks, Sir Luther Largent, to make sure the city watch will stand down. He warns her that some would call this treason. Some would, she answers. The question is, would you? Her plot is nearly undone. A Kingsguard reports her to Lord Jasper Wilde, the master of laws the realm called Ironrod, and in the episode's most disturbing and most criticized scene, Wilde corners Alicent and tries to assault her before Grand Maester Orwyle arrives with guards and has him seized. We will be plain. This beat is an invention, and it has drawn heavy criticism in part because the show's own writers had previously said they would not put scenes of sexual violence on screen. We are not going to dwell on it. We raise it only to mark it clearly as something the book does not contain, and to note that in Fire and Blood, Alicent's role here is the exact opposite of what you just saw. Because, in the show, Alicent engineers the fall. She stands down the watch. She sends her own son away to Harrenhal. She even gets a grief-hollowed Helena to order the wall guards not to loose at the incoming dragons. And then the dragons come, 4 of them over the city, and Rhaenyra and Daemon land almost unopposed. Alicent has done exactly as she promised. The Gold Cloaks lay down their arms. At the doors of the throne room, Largent's men surround the last holdouts, and he orders them to yield. Here the show actually lands close to the truth, even if it routes it through the wrong person. In the book, the capital falls in a single day with very little fighting. And the reason is the Gold Cloaks. Years before, Daemon Targaryen had been commander of the city watch. He is the man who gave the watchmen their gold cloaks in the first place. Their officers backed the Greens, but the rank and file never forgot whose men they were. The instant Caraxes was sighted over the city, the watch turned on its own. The 7 gate captains hand-picked for their loyalty to Aegon were seized or killed. And at the river gate, a low-born giant of a man named Sir Luther Largent, the same commander the show uses, led the coup, ran his sword through the belly of Sir Gawain Hightower, and spoke the line that won the war for a season. Demon gave us these cloaks, and they're gold, no matter how you turn them. So the show keeps the old loyalty. Its own Largent still reminds the room that Demon gave these men their cloaks, but it layers Alicent on top, crediting her with engineering the surrender that the book credits to the Watchmen themselves. And one death the book makes famous, Gwaine Hightower's, the show quietly spares. Inside the Red Keep, Demon is shown a prisoner kept in the dark. A gift, he is told, from Larys Strong. It is Otto Hightower. In the show's telling, Otto has been secretly rotting in these dungeons since he was cast out as Hand a season ago. Demon laughs to recognize him and has him dragged up to the throne room. That secret imprisonment is the show's invention. In the book, Otto Hightower was no one's secret prisoner. He was a free man, the former Hand of the King, publicly dismissed by Aegon II, who had grown tired of his grandfather's caution and told him he wanted a Hand who would spill blood, not ink. Otto was simply in the city when it fell, and he was captured like everyone else. And then the throne room, the climax of the episode, and one of the most loaded sequences of the season. Otto and Ironrod are brought before Rhaenyra. Demon presses her to do the killing herself, to show the court a queen who does not waver. They're watching, he tells her. In this moment, you will become queen. Otto, resigned, asks only that it be done cleanly, rather than that he be hacked apart, and tries to invoke her father. She silences him. She takes the sword, and she botches it. The first blow wounds him. The second takes his head. Then, Demon strikes off Jasper Wild's head with the same blade. Weeping, Rhaenyra steps through the blood and climbs the steps and sits the Iron Throne for the first time, leaving a trail of red footprints on the black iron. Now, the book reader came for one specific image here, and the show deliberately did not give it to you. In Fire and Blood, when Rhaenyra finally sits the throne, the legend goes that the Iron Throne itself cuts her, opens wounds on her legs and the palm of her hand even though she wore armor. And the partisans read it as the throne rejecting an unworthy queen, the seat that suffers no king unworthy to sit it. The show left that out completely. The blood on these steps is not the throne's judgment. It is Otto Hightower's, walked up the stairs on a queen's boots. The show swapped a supernatural omen for a human one, a botched execution, and a dead man's blood instead of a throne that bites. We will come back to why that swap matters, because it is one of the most interesting choices the writers made all night. And the episode's final image needs no dialogue at all. Alicent and Helaena, caught trying to flee, are marched into the hall, and Alicent looks down and sees her father's headless body on the floor, and then up at the woman who was once her dearest friend, resolute on the throne above him. The two queens lock eyes, cut to black. So the city is Rhaenyra's. The war's greatest prize is hers. And if you know the book, you know that this, the very night she wins, is the night her ruin begins. Let us put the whole of it together as Fire and Blood tells it, because the true history of this night is one of the great set pieces of the dance. By 130 after the conquest, Aegon II lay burned and broken after Rook's Rest, and it was his brother Aemond who ruled as Prince Regent. And Aemond made a gambler's choice. He took the great host out of the city and marched it overland for Harrenhal to hunt Demon. And he kept Vhagar tied to that slow-moving column the whole way, afraid to let her fly ahead and meet Caraxes alone. He emptied the capital to do it. He took the soldiers. He took the only war dragon. He left behind a bedridden king, a crippled dragon hidden away, and a garrison of gold cloaks who were never going to be enough. Daemon refused the trap. Warned by the spies his network had spread through the Riverlands, he flew wide around the God's Eye to avoid his nephew's line of march, and brought word to Rhaenyra of the one thing that mattered. The capital was naked. And then the board turned for good. Daemon came first, on Caraxes, circling the Red Keep where every eye in the city could see him. Rhaenyra followed on Syrax, and the Valyrian fleet, free at last after the gullet, came up the bay. But the dragons and the ships were never the weapon that took King's Landing. The weapon was memory, the gold cloaks remembering the prince who made them. The city fell in a day, with almost no one dying to make it happen. Inside the Red Keep, one man saw it coming and did not panic. Larys Strong, the clubfoot, the master of whisperers, had already prepared the escape through a secret passage of Maegor's holdfast that he alone knew. And then he did the cold, brilliant thing. He split the royal family up so that no one of them could betray the others. King Aegon II, dressed as a common man, was sent by sea toward Dragonstone, the last place, Larys reasoned, that Rhaenyra would ever look for him. The little princess Jaehaera was given to a knight to carry toward Storm's End. The little prince Maelor was given to another to be carried toward Oldtown, a journey that would end in horror, though not here and not yet. Larys spirited a dynasty out through walls built to be a tomb, and then he was simply gone. And when Rhaenyra's men opened the doors of Maegor's holdfast, there was no king to drag from the throne, only the people he had left behind. Grand Maester Orwyle, Sir Tyland Lannister, the Dowager Queen Alicent, and Queen Helaena, hollow with grief. Rhaenyra climbed the steps and sat the seat her father had sat, and held court through the night while the city came to kneel. Now, she did not need a coronation. She had already been crowned the year before on Dragonstone, with her own father's crown set upon her brow. This was not a crowning. This was a homecoming, promised to a girl and denied to a woman for 20 years. And then the throne, the chroniclers tell us, cut her. Even in armor, it opened wounds on her legs and her left palm. But here is the thing you must understand about that detail. The man who records it is Septon Eustace, and Eustace loved the Greens and never loved her. And he means for you to read it as a sign that the throne knew, that it spurned her, that her days upon it would be few. The other chroniclers do not confirm it. The throne has cut many who sat it. Maegor the Cruel was found dead upon it. King Viserys lost fingers to it. A later king cut himself so often, the court called him King Scab. And Aegon, the Conqueror's only recorded word about his own creation, is that a king should never sit easy. So was it the gods reaching down, or a partisan Septon needing an omen? The book leaves it to you. And now you know why the show's choice to drop it entirely is so interesting. The writers refused the supernatural Omen and built a human one out of a botched beheading instead. What followed in that hall was not mercy, and the book does not look away. Otto Hightower was beheaded first, as a traitor, exactly as he himself had once predicted that his own head would be the first to fall. Lord Jasper Wilde, Ironrod, was beheaded second, defiant to the end, insisting that the Iron Throne should go to a king's son before a daughter. Never mind that the merciless rule of bend the knee or die a traitor's death had been Ironrod's own invention. 2 green lords who tried to change sides were judged faithless and executed for it. And Sir Tyland Lannister, the Master of Coin, was given to the torturers because the treasury was empty. The Greens had hidden the crown's gold in 4 places, and Tyland was the only man who knew where. So they blinded him and gelded him and took his ears and his nails. He never told. And here is the detail the book insists on, the one that makes him unforgettable. He survived all of it. Years later, that ruined, blind man would rise again as the Hooded Hand, helping to rebuild the realm under Aegon III. The show may let you think these executions are the end of these people. The book knows better. So that is the true fall of King's Landing. Won in a day by an old loyalty with almost no blood, and then drowned in it the same night by a queen the chroniclers are already learning to fear. Let us line them up the way only a book reader can. The prophecy. The show says Rhaenyra marches on King's Landing because Daemon shares a vision of a song of ice and fire and a girl with dragons to come. The book says she marches because they killed her second son and burned away everything in her butt rage. That prophecy is a show invention, not found anywhere in Fire and Blood. And it is the single biggest rewiring of the night. The throne, the book's most famous Omen, the Iron Throne cutting the new queen, is cut from the episode entirely. The blood on the steps is Otto's, not hers. The Omen is a botched execution, not a biting throne. Otto Hightower. The book, a free, publicly dismissed former hand, captured at the fall, beheaded first as a traitor. The show, a secret prisoner rotting in a dungeon, a gift from Larys, killed personally by Rhaenyra in 2 clumsy blows. The beheading by the queen's own hand is the show's addition. In the book, she gives the order, but no chronicle puts the sword in her hand. Jasper Wilde, faithful in the broad strokes, beheaded second, defiant. But the book credits the order to Rhaenyra, not the blade to Daemon. A small change with a big effect. The show keeps making Daemon the hand that kills. Harrenhal. The show welds 3 separate events, spread across a year, into one burning night. Daemon's bloodless taking, his abandonment of the castle, Aemon's hollow retaking of an empty ruin, and the much later, much colder extermination of House Strong. And it invents Aemon's wound and his crawl to Alice Wholecloth, Rhaena and Sheepstealer. The show gives a true-born princess the wild dragon, the sheep, and the taming that belonged to the low-born girl Nettles, and inverts Jane Arryn from a warm protector into a cold one. We will spend a moment on what that costs. Alicent. The book's Alicent tried to defend King's Landing, sent riders to recall Aemond, sent ravens to loyal lords, and surrendered only when the last gate could not hold. The show makes her the architect of the fall. It is a near-total inversion of the character. And the things the show got right, which a book reader should be generous enough to say out loud, Corlys's line is almost verbatim from the page. The gold cloaks turning out of love for Daemon is the true cause of the fall. Otto first, Ironrod second. Jace shot from the water by crossbows after his dragon goes down. And the bitter truth that the men who win this victory will not all live to enjoy it. A few things rewarding a second look. The bloody footprints. The image the show built its whole finale around is a deliberate echo and a deliberate swap. A substitute for the book's throne cut, telling you the writers wanted the Omen without the magic. The crown. Watch who hands Rhaenyra her crown, and how. It is offered by the spy mistress Mysaria, with a pointed reminder to remember who has been faithful. A tiny scene that is quietly seeding the paranoia that will define and end this queen's reign. The dragon seeds 2 days. A blink and miss line, The giant and the pale-haired man abandoned their Riverlands post after only 2 days, spooked by a witch's warning. That is the first crack in the loyalty of the men who just won the war. And if you know where this is going, it is the loudest alarm bell in the episode. The dragon seeds looks. The book is careful with these three, and the show should be too. Adam of Hull carries the full Valyrian look. Silver hair, purple eyes. Because the whispers say his blood is the sea snake's own. Ulf the White has the pale Valyrian hair as well, though no one knows whose blood gave it to him. But the giant, Hugh Hammer? The book never describes his hair at all. It tells us only that he was huge, with hands that could twist steel bars. So the silver the show gives Hugh is the show's invention. On the page, he is simply a base-born giant on the back of a king's dragon. And a quiet one, for the lore-hungry. The man on the great bronze dragon you saw at the gullet is riding Vermithor, the dragon of the old king Jaehaerys I himself, the Bronze Fury, the second largest living dragon in all the world. A common-born man is sitting on a king's dragon. The whole order of things is being turned upside down, and almost no one in that scene understands what it means yet. And here is a thread the episode touches twice, without ever drawing the line between them. So we will. In the book, the secret way Larys Strong uses to smuggle the royal family out of the Red Keep runs through the hidden passages of Maegor's Holdfast. The same passages Maegor the Cruel had built, and then murdered the builders to keep secret, so that no living man would know the ways through his own walls. And the dry moat that rings that Holdfast, lined with iron spikes? Keep it in the back of your mind. Before this war is over, the gentlest soul in this entire story will fall onto those very spikes. And the lie the city tells itself about how she died is the spark that burns Rhaenyra's reign to the ground. Same stones, two endings. The show is quietly walking past both of them tonight. This episode plants more than it pays off. Here is what to watch. The throne that bites. Whether the Iron Throne truly judges its rulers, or whether that is only a story the losers tell, fire and blood never decides. Maegor the Cruel died on it. Kings have bled on it for centuries. The book hands you the omen and the doubt in the same breath, and asks you to choose. Keep the question in mind, because before this war is over, the throne will outlive nearly everyone who fought for it. Alice Rivers and what she sees. The show is making Alice a seer, and the book agrees she sees, but be careful how you describe it. Her visions, the book says, come in storm clouds, in pools of water at dusk, and in cooking fires. That is her sight. It is not, we promise you, 1,000 eyes and one. That phrase belongs to a different bastard, born decades after the dance, a man named Bloodraven, and the two have nothing to do with one another. Hold Alice's real gift in mind, because what she has already seen is the doom of a one-eyed prince over a great lake. The two betrayers. The dragon seeds are heroes tonight. Remember that. Because the giant on the bronze dragon and the pale man on the silver she-dragon will, before the year is out, become the most infamous turncoats in the history of the dance. And the book itself confesses it can never fully explain why, because neither man could read or write to leave us his reasons. Watch the greed surface even here, in a muttered wish to be lords, to be kings. The crack is already showing, the hammer and the crown. There is a prophecy whispered among the giant's followers, that a new king will rise once a hammer falls on a dragon. It does not come true for him. It comes true in a way no one in this story could imagine 150 years later, when a different warrior with a warhammer kills a different Targaryen prince beside a river and takes the throne. The dance is full of these long echoes. This is one of the longest. The word on the tomb. And keep the honorable dragonseed, the boy of 15, close in your memory. His own queen will one day turn on him out of fear, and he will die proving her wrong. And the word they will carve on his tomb is the one this episode's queen is about to stop deserving. Loyal. Helaena's chickens. The gentlest line in the whole episode is a loaded gun. A grief-broken Helaena says she would like to keep chickens, and that she will not have any beast harmed. Hold that. The small folk love Helaena in a way they will never love Rhaenyra. And when she dies, by her own hand or another's, the city will choose to believe the cruelest version, that the queen had her killed. That belief, true or not, is the thing that finally turns King's Landing into a mob. The gentle woman who would not see a beast harmed becomes, in death, the reason a city tears its queen apart. The whisper beside the throne. Watch the spy mistress, Mysaria, place the crown in Rhaenyra's hands, and remind her to remember who has been faithful. The regime grows colder with her in it. Her jealousy and her counsel are a quiet poison in this court. The seed of the paranoia that will one day have the queen order the murder of a teenage girl, and the start of a fear that costs Rhaenyra her most loyal friends. A throne is only ever as just as the people whispering beside it. Let us speak honestly about the arguments this hour started. In our own voice, fairly, both sides. First, the prophecy. The loudest debate among book readers is whether the show's Song of Ice and Fire thread enriches the dance or cheapens it. One side argues it gives this war a meaning the book never bothered to, binding it to the larger story and to Daenerys far down the line. The other argues that the real engine of fire and blood, a mother's grief curdling into pure hatred, is a stronger, more human reason to burn down a city than a destiny she will never live to see, and that bolting a prophecy onto Rhaenyra steals her agency. Both readings are defensible. Our own view. The book's grief is the harder, braver story. But we understand exactly why a television series bridging to Game of Thrones reached for the prophecy. Second, the throne. Many book readers came specifically for the throne, cutting the queen, and felt its absence as a loss. Others have pointed out, fairly, that the show simply moved the Omen rather than deleting it, that the bloody footprints and the botched beheading carry the same meaning, with a human cause instead of a magical one. Whether that is a clever adaptation or a missed opportunity is genuinely a matter of taste. Third, and most seriously, the assault scene. Criticism here has been pointed, and it is not only about taste. It is about a show adding sexual violence its own writers had previously said it would avoid, and using it as a plot device on the road to a triumph. We think a breakdown owes you the honesty to say that this is the beat the discourse has landed on hardest, and to let you weigh it. And fourth, the broader pacing argument that compressing the single largest event of the dance into week 2, alongside 3 other major storylines, left some of it feeling rushed. The counter is that the sheer momentum is the point, that this is a season moving at the speed of a war. Reasonable people are on both sides. What we will not do is hand you a fight pretending it is settled. The fun of this story has always been that the chroniclers themselves disagree. So do we. A few of the people who carried this hour, as the book knows them. Rhaenyra. Forget for a moment the queen who waited. The woman who takes the throne tonight has just lost a second son, Jace, not long after the first. And the book is brutally clear about what that does to her. It burns away her fear and leaves only anger. She wins everything in this episode, and winning is precisely what destroys her. The empty treasury that drives her to tax a city until it hates her. The growing fear that will turn her against her own dragon riders. The cruelty that is already showing in a throne room slick with blood. She is the realm's delight, becoming, in her own people's mouths, something far darker. The throne cut her, the partisans said. The truer wound was the crown. Demon. The Black's military mind and the reason the city falls at all. Not for his dragon, but for a quarter-century-old loyalty he earned as a young man commanding the Watch. He is the hand on Rhaenyra's shoulder tonight, urging her toward the hard, kingly cruelty he has always understood. Watch how often the show puts the killing blade near Demon. The book is building toward the day he flies off alone to a great lake, and a reckoning with his one-eyed nephew, Alicent, the most inverted character of the night. The show's Alicent brings down her own son's capital. The book's Alicent fought to save it, and surrendered only when the last gate broke. However you feel about the change, hold on to the woman at the end of the hall, looking at her father's body and her oldest friend on the throne above it. The dance has always been, underneath the dragons, the story of these two women, and the story is about to take from each of them everything they have left. Otto Hightower, the grandfather who started it all, dead by the second act. In the book, as on the screen, he is the first head to fall, the cautious schemer who built a king and lived just long enough to watch the whole board overturn. He once said his own head would be the first cut off. He was right. Larys strong. While kings panic, the clubfoot works. The fall of the capital is, in the book, his quiet masterpiece. A king and the heirs of a dynasty slipped out through walls built to be a tomb. The party split so cleverly that no captured man could betray another. He asks for nothing. He is seen by no one. And when the Queen's men come looking, he is simply gone. Remember him. The quiet man in the corner is the reason the green cause does not die tonight. Tyland Lannister. The true cost of a hidden treasury. He did his king one last service. He hid the gold so well the new queen could not find it. And he paid for it with his eyes and his manhood, and most of the rest of himself. And then, in the cruelest mercy the book has, he lived. Cruelty and endurance in one ruined man, who will one day be the steady hand that helps put the realm back together. So, was this a great hour of television? Our honest answer: it was the most consequential hour of the season so far, and one of its most flawed. When it is good, it is staggering. Corlys pulled from the sea, the gold cloaks turning, the unbearable silence of two queens at the end of a bloody hall. When it reaches, it overreaches. A prophecy the book never needed, an inverted Alicent, an assault scene the show should not have written. As a piece of adaptation, it is fascinating precisely because of how boldly it rewrites. It traded grief for destiny, a biting throne for a botched beheading, a defender for a saboteur. Some of those trades we would argue against all night, but we cannot call the result safe, and we cannot call it boring. It took the biggest moment in the entire dance and refused to flinch from it. For a book reader, that is both the thrill and the frustration of this show in a single hour. So count what just changed. Rhaenyra holds King's Landing and the Iron Throne, the prize of the entire war. But Aegon II is alive and loose, slipping toward Dragonstone with his pride in pieces and his crown hidden. Aemond is still out there on the largest dragon in the world, about to learn that while he chased his uncle through an empty castle, he lost his brother's capital. Demon will not sit still in a one city. The book already has him turning toward the God's Eye and a duel with Aemond. And here is the cruel shape of what comes next. The reason the book calls her the half-year queen. Rhaenyra takes the most powerful seat in the world in less than a day. The skies and the greater share of the dragons hers, and within half a year, it is gone. No siege breaks her. No army beats her at the gates. She is undone by her own rule. The treasury is empty because Thailand hid the gold, so her master of coin lays such heavy new taxes and seizures on the city that the realm's delight is soon being called, in her own streets, King Maegor with teats. And her growing fear curdles into the worst decision of all. She turns on the base-born dragon riders who won her this throne, brands them traitors, and in doing so, drives away the Valyrian fleet that is half her army. 2 queens sit in her dungeons tonight, and what becomes of one of them will, before the year is out, send a mob to storm the dragon pit and put a torch to everything. She has won, and winning is what destroys her. That is the fall of King's Landing as Fire and Blood tells it, and every place House of the Dragon changed it. If you want the true history behind every episode, told straight from the books, this is the channel for it. We go deep into the lore, the mysteries, and the real history every single week. So come join the realm. Subscribe, and stay with us. Because the Queen has her throne now, and you already know what the throne does to those who sit it. Next time, the hunt for Aemond, and a duel above a great lake that the book dates to a single fated afternoon.